Hello, my name is Declan Mulready from the Audi Academy. Today we're going to take a look at the Audi Q7 from a few different points of view. We'll start out with the exterior, then we'll move to the interior, then we'll take a look at safety, next up is performance, and last but not least we'll talk about technology. When we talk about technology, I break that into two different categories. First of all, we'll go through the electronics, and then I talk about the engineering. Taking a look at the exterior of the Audi Q7, this was Audi's first SUV. From a styling point of view, that posed a little bit of a challenge for a brand that didn't have an SUV before. So what they did was quite simple. Everything above the belt line we styled like one of our Avants. Everything below the belt line we styled like a traditional SUV. If you take a look at the fenders, both front and rear, we designed them to be staunch, more aggressive. They actually protrude on the car. If you take a look at the roof line towards the back, it's more coupe-ish than you will find on most SUVs. When we move up to the front, you'll find a very traditional Audi face. If you look at the single frame grille that you will find on most Audis, it's a little taller and it's a little narrower. When we take a look at the air inlets, on the TDI models, these are actually used for the intercoolers for the turbochargers. Then when we take a look at the lighting, needless to say, we've built in the LEDs here, which has now become a signature for Audi. When you get the S-Line package, you get more aggressive front and rear fascias. If you decide to take the 21 wheel inch option, you also get wheel arch extensions that stand out just a bit, plus 21 inch wheels that look spectacular on this car. In addition to that, the interior is also upgraded, but we'll talk about that more in a while. When we take a look at the Q7 from a safety point of view, one of the things you have to bear in mind is that the Q7 was designed in Germany. Now, needless to say, you're going to find quite a few of these cars on the Autobahn. And as a result, when these cars get into an accident, they're typically traveling at a higher speed than you would here in the US. So safety protection and safety standards are higher as well. The first thing from a safety point of view that customers think about is how many airbags the car is available with. And the Q7, it comes with 6 standard airbags, and we have 2 optional airbags for the rear seat passengers as well. However, safety is a lot more than airbags. When you take a look at this car, or any car for that matter, the most important thing from a safety point of view is the structure that the car is actually built around. And in the case of the Q7, it's a very rigid steel safety frame. It starts out in the bottom of the A pillars, moves up past the B pillar. In the case of the Q7, goes past the C pillar, and finally on into the D pillar. The B pillar on this car is very substantial. One of the benefits that comes with this is, from a side impact protection point of view, when this car gets hit, it spreads the energy sideways instead of letting the energy move in towards the occupants. Now, on most SUVs, you can get your hand to fit around the B pillar. In the case of the Q7, I can't get my fingers to touch. Needless to say, extremely beefy and extremely strong. Next up, from a side impact protection point of view, there's multiple beams in each door. So between the rigid steel safety frame and the beams in the door, and quite a few other things, when this car gets hit side on, instead of the energy trying to move in towards the driver, it actually moves sideways down the car and keeps the energy away from the occupants inside. Next up, when we move to the front of the car, from a safety point of view, one of the greatest challenges that comes with SUVs is the fact that they've got a higher stance than most passenger cars. The challenge with that is, when an SUV runs into a car, its bumper system typically sits higher than the car's bumper system. So it'll run over the rear bumper, and in most cases SUVs actually end up on the roof from reasonable accidents. The Q7 is unusual in the fact that it has one bumper here, so when it hits an SUV, they hit bumper to bumper. But it also has another bumper bar down here, so if it hits a passenger car, now all the safety systems on the passenger car work, and the safety systems on the Q7 work as well. In addition, we have ESP. ESP stands for Electronic Stability Program. And how this system works, very simply, it applies the brake to an individual wheel when it feels that the car is beginning to skid, be it left or right. Now, an additional feature that we have built into the Q7 is, it also has a program that will recognize if the car is getting close to a rollover. And in that case, it will brake individual wheels as well to make sure that the rollover does not happen. Another feature that we have on top of ESP is ABS, or anti-lock braking system. Basically what this system does is give the driver full control of the steering even when they're braking 100%, so they can actually get around that object in front of them instead of skidding into it. Looking at the Q7 from a performance point of view, we have three different engines available. The first one is a 3-litre TFSI motor that produces 272 horsepower and, more importantly, 295 pound-feet of torque that's developed at 2250 RPM. Bottom line, an awful lot of shove at low RPMs. Next up, we have the 3-litre TFSI, and this engine is only available in the S-line. The engine produces 333 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque at a very low 2900 RPM. Next up, we have the 3.0 TDI. This engine develops 225 horsepower, but again, more importantly, 406 pound-feet of torque at an incredibly low 1750 RPM. Coupled to that, we have a new 8-speed Tiptronic transmission. The benefit of the 8 speeds is the engine doesn't have to work as hard to propel the car forward at greater speed. Needless to say, we also get better gas mileage as an added benefit that goes along with this too. Now, power and performance is absolutely nothing without control. And when we move to the Quattro system, we've rearranged it for the 2011 Q7. We've changed the torque split to now be 40% at the front and 60% at the rear. Also, speaking of control, the suspension system in the Q7 is quite advanced. We're using a double wishbone suspension up front and actually the same arrangement down back. The suspension is mounted to a steel subframe which also has rubber bushings, and the benefit of that is it gives you a more comfortable, quieter ride. Next up, stopping the vehicle. Needless to say, the size of the Q7, it has quite a bit of weight behind it. But from a braking point of view, this car is absolutely stellar. Up front we have massive rotors, and we also have 6 piston calipers that clamp down on those rotors to bring the car to a consistent and quick stop. Down back we also have massive ventilated rotors as well. Looking at the interior of the Audi Q7, it's a wonderful place for you to be. Regardless of whether you're dropping off the kids or picking them up from a soccer game, or you're doing a long drive, 500-600 miles in a day, whatever the case may be, this is an excellent environment. You have available options like the ventilated front seats, the Bang & Olufsen sound system, or the open sky sunroof. All very, very nice to have. However, the seating position is absolutely perfect, the steering position is perfect, and obviously wonderful instrumentation as well. When you take a look at the rear seats, they're also adjustable forwards and backwards, and the back rake is adjustable as well. From a versatility point of view, we can also fold down the rear seats, and you can basically get from behind the driver's seat all the way to the rear tailgate as cargo space. So be it you're running down to the home store on the weekend, or you're piling in snowboards or a surfboard, whatever the case may be, you can do it in this car. From a versatility point of view, we also have plenty of cup holders and beverage holders. Every door has a beverage holder. We have 2 cup holders up front and an additional 2 cup holders down back as well. Looking at the Audi Q7 from a technology point of view, I always like to break that into 2 categories. First of all, we have the electronics that are available, and second of all, the engineering that the Q7 is built around. Why don't we start out with the electronics? I've already mentioned that the car is available with the Bang & Olufsen sound system, which is absolutely superb. If you choose not to get that, we also have the Bose sound system available, which sounds very good. We also have the standard Audi system available in this car too. Next up, we have a 3D navigation system with voice recognition and real-time traffic as well. So if you do plan on long journeys, this makes an excellent companion. Next up, we have the MMI system that makes it very easy to interact with the car and pick your options and choose what it is you need to do. Next after that, we have a driver information display that will give you all the information that you would typically need. Miles to empty, time driven, miles driven. And now with the new engines, we also have an efficiency meter in here as well. Another available feature for this car is the adaptive cruise control. Now, if you plan on spending a lot of time in traffic, this is an excellent option to have. Even when it's turned off, it also has Audi brake guard built into it. So if you get too close to a car in front of you, it actually warns you that you're about to get into an accident. Now, I did mention there was 2 sides to the technology piece. One was the electronics and the second was engineering. From an engineering point of view, this car is excellent. I've already mentioned that the car was designed in Germany to be used on the Autobahn. We've also found out from a crash point of view the car does exceptionally well. We've also found out from a performance and efficiency point of view with our new engines the car does very well also. Next up, we have a new form of Quattro in here, rearranged just slightly, but from a grip point of view and also a braking point of view, the car is fantastic as well. We talked about some of the available electronics that were in here, which will make the car extremely comfortable and extremely easy to use while either puttering around town or traveling on a long journey. But when you take all of these things and you put them together, what's unique about the Q7 is the way it goes about doing it. It's very comfortable to drive on long journeys. However, if you were going down a backcountry road, it's also a joy to drive quickly and it feels extremely sporty. Next up is the available towing system on the Q7. Now, if you have the hitch dealer installed, it's rated at £5,500. However, if you have the factory ordered hitch, it's rated at £6,600. Be that a boat or be that a trailer, £6,600 is a very large load to pull. However, the Q7 does it in its stride. It has engines that are very efficient, powerful, but most importantly for towing, very, very torquey. It's got the all-wheel drive system that will give it fantastic grip. It also has the available air ride suspension for larger loads.